Hello, this is Brant with Unleash Your God-Given Healing with Lifestyle Changes. Today, we're going to learn how to make a very healthy and nutritious creamy chicken, wild rice, and mushroom soup. Now, I must be honest, we love to make soups in our family. We actually eat these soups year round, but especially during the winter time. But again, this is something we can do year round. So I want to start today by showing you the ingredients because again, I took a simple recipe and I made everything in it more nutrient dense and more healthy. So let's look at onions. Onions are great for fighting cancer. They're good for the immune system, and they have so many nutrients in them, including allicin. So when a recipe calls for onions, this is what this gal does. If it says a half a cup, I use a cup. Well, in this case, I doubled it to 2 cups because we're supposed to have 1 cup of onion. No, we're going to have 2 because of the nutrients and the taste. Now, this is 4 cups of celery. And celery is so good for many things, including your nervous system. But celery is best to buy organic because it does have a heavy pesticide residue. So we're going to have 4 cups of organic celery. Now, onions, these happen to be organic, but they don't have to be because they don't have a very high pesticide residue. Then these are organic carrots. Okay, I just bought them at the store and then chopped them up. And let's look at the rices we're going to be having today. Both of these are organic. We're going to be using Basmati rice. Okay, it's organic. And we're also going to use a wild rice that's organic. Now, I got to tell you a little bit about rice. Rice has, a lot of people have been talking about the arsenic in rice lately, and it is something that normally appears in the soil. And so depending on how this rice is harvested and where it's harvested, you can get more or less arsenic. Now, arsenic is okay as long as you don't get levels that are too high. So, and my body's been tested, my levels are not too high. So, basmati rice does not, for some reason, have high levels of arsenic. So I'm mixing that with wild rice. And of course, we want the whole grain rices, and these are whole grain. But the brown rice seems to have more arsenic in it. And so I'm using the wild rice, which has about as much as the white rice that's been processed. And I stay away from white rice because it's processed as much as possible. So here are our rices. And before I'm going to put them in the soup, because of the low arsenic content, possibly there, I'm going to rinse them thoroughly before I put them in the soup. All right, let's look at our spices here. We've got organic black pepper. You can freshly grind it. We've got our Redmond's salt. We've got Italian seasoning. And we've got bay leaves, and all of these are organic. And we also have our organic minced garlic. Of course, it's always best to freshly crush those garlic cloves yourself. So these are our spices. And then we've got our organic chicken broth. I happen to get these at Publix. And I actually got one that says chicken bone broth because that just adds more nutrients to your soup, especially if you're fighting a cold. So it's going to take 3 of these. Okay, so this is the first part of our recipe, and we're going to get started by taking coconut oil and we're going to saute in the coconut oil and the garlics. And the first thing we're going to put in is our onions. Okay. All right. And then we're going to put in our organic celery. And then our carrots. But this is going to have to simmer for a while. You could also do this in a crock pot if you like to cook by crock pot, which I think is a great idea. And now I'm going to add the bay leaves and then the 2 tablespoons of Italian seasoning. It's always best to cook with herbs and spices as opposed to just salting everything. This is very healthy salt that your body needs. Then 3 teaspoons of pepper. All right, so I've got my herbs and my spices. Again, best way to cook with lots of healthy herbs. We'll even add some parsley at the end. So this is going to take about 15-20 minutes. It's when all of the vegetables become soft that then you can then add the bone broth and the chicken broth. Again, we're using so many nourishing ingredients in this recipe, mainly organic spices, the best in salts and pepper, and the fresher you can make things, the better. Then the next thing we're going to add after this has softened is all of the bone broth. Now, I have to tell you, this is a huge pot, and this is the way that I cook. I cook for an army, and then I freeze and I store. So we'll eat several days off this soup, 2 to 3 days, and then I will save them in sections of 4 servings apiece, little sections for my bachelor son, and then sometimes larger sections for something I know that is coming up, like when the family comes into town. All right. Once this comes to a boil, I'm going to add the rice. But remember what I told you I had to do first. I've got to take it to the sink, and I've got to rinse this rice thoroughly. Even using my sprayer to make sure I get any arsenic residues off. Shake it. And then I'm going to add it to my soup. Now this whole big batch here with all these liquids and rice and all these vegetables and herbs and spices are now going to stew together. I'm going to bring this to a boil, and then I'm going to let it simmer for several hours before the next part of this recipe, which I'll show you, is making the roux that will be added along with the chicken and the mushrooms and the parsley. All right, now we are ready to make our roux. I have moved the soup on the back burner of the stove, and I've moved it out of the way so that you can see what I'm doing. And I want to show you, first of all, this is my Le Creuset deep dish fry pan. Perfectly safe for cooking. As you've noticed, I'm using stainless steel here, and I'm using this to saute. It has a ceramic interior. made in France, by the way. But the good thing is that these are non-toxic cookware. And my video on non-toxic cookware and the best cookware to use and which ones to avoid will be referenced in the show notes below. Believe it or not, this is my most popular video. And why did I make it? Because you asked me to. And again, it's always great to find out what you would like to have me to look into and research. And that was probably 20 hours of research. So, saute in this pan. We're going to use for the roux a cup of butter, organic butter. In this case, it's 2 little sticks put together. And then here is my freshly milled soft wheat flour. I just simply, a few minutes ago, put it right here. 30 seconds, it was done. This is not hard, folks. This is not hard at all. Now, if you have any sensitivity to any gluten or wheat, then you can go with the gluten-free, wheat-free flour. You could use a cup of this instead. So this is an option for people going gluten-free. We have our 2 cups of liquid to make the roux. In this case, I'm using coconut milk, but you could use organic milk or you could use almond milk. The choice is yours according to what's best and what works for your family. So I'm going to start with this deep fry pan. I'm going to add the 2 sticks of butter. And as they melt, we're going to be making this roux. You've got to let the butter melt first. Whoa, it's going to town here. Now, the one thing you have to know about the ceramic cookware is that you do not use a steel spoon. You have to use a wooden spoon or a silicone spoon. So I will be using, to make this, a wooden spoon. Important thing to note, because you don't want to scratch the surface of this ceramic cookware. All right, it's melted. So we're going to start adding, little by little, our freshly ground soft white wheat flour. Also, with this ceramic coating on this Le Creuset deep fry pan, you do not want to use one of those green scouring, those green scouring pads on something like this. So you simply use a soft towel when you are cleaning it, a soft rag, wet rag, with soak in water while you are cleaning it. All right, we've got the flour mixed in. Now it's time to gradually add the coconut milk. A little at a time. This is a lot of stirring to make this roux, so you certainly would not want to be using steel on this nicely glazed inner coating. All right, not bad. Now, we're going to take this and we're going to add it to our soup mixture. The rice is now becoming done. Carrots and celery are done. But again, you've got to simmer this several hours to get everything tender. And the longer you simmer, the more you just get all these nutrients and bake all the flavors together. All right. Just simply mix this together. And now this clear liquid is becoming creamy or milky looking. All right, now we are ready to finish off the soup. Then we have 3 ingredients left. We have our baked chicken, organic chicken, chopped, ready to go. We have mushrooms, organic mushrooms. Now, let me say this. Normally, when I get mushrooms for this recipe, I buy 2 or 3 different types of mushrooms to go in the soup. Why would I do that? Because Dr. Will Bulsiewicz, who is the renowned gastroenterologist, says that the number of plants matter. The number of different plants you eat in a day enhances your microbiome, which is your gut lining. Now, the reason I'm using the same mushrooms today is, to be perfectly honest, for economic reasons. Publix had their buy one, get one free organic sliced mushrooms. So cheap in me is going with these today. Otherwise, I would use 2 or 3 different types of mushrooms. So we've got that. And then we've got these chopped parsley, which is really the best is fresh parsley, but I only have fresh basil growing on my back porch right now. So I'm going to use these chopped parsley, which are the next best thing to fresh. And so let's put in the chicken. 2 cups of chicken. I would say 2 heaping cups. That took me about 2 pounds. Can't have chicken soup without the chicken. All right, now we need the mushrooms. Some people like to saute these first. I do not. I put them directly in the soup, and they will shrink as if you cook them first with all of the heat. So there's 1 8-ounce, and here is the second 8-ounce. Like I say, I'm feeding an army here. That's what it looks like. And then I'm going to place the parsley in there last. Whenever you can use fresh herbs, and this is the next best thing to fresh. If I pick these out of my garden like I sometimes do and cut them that day, that would be even better. Just don't happen to have any, and neither did the store have any. Parsley is it's a cleansing herb. So good for you. And it just tops this recipe off with just all these nutrient-dense vegetables, herbs, and spices. And now I want to bring this back into the picture because, again, I told you, I don't hide this. I am a freeze and store baker. So once I finish with this, it's still got to simmer a little bit longer. Once I finish with this, I'm going to put up what I'm going to use when it's room temperature. I pull it out for room temperature. I have 1 storage container that goes in the refrigerator because we're going to eat that for the next few days. And then these are my freeze and store containers made of Pyrex or glass. And I will cool these down to room temperature. When they are room temperature, I will label them and I will put them in the freezer. So when we come back and we've worked all day and we're running short on time, I just simply pull one of these out that morning, begin to thaw it in the refrigerator, and then I just heat it up that night with some almond crackers or some fresh bread. But the point is, you're talking about nutrient-dense soup. So I hope that this information has been helpful for you. There's just so many ways to make nutrient-dense foods for you and for your family. Take a simple recipe. Look at what you can add, herbs and spices. What ingredients you can change out to be healthy. If you have gluten issues, you will use a gluten-free roux like I made today. If you have sensitivities to milk or lactose, you will use almond or coconut milk. The point is, take a recipe, make it your own, make it so that your family likes it, and make it so that nothing in there is irritating for your digestive tract. Now, I have to be honest, my family likes a lot of meat in their soup. I don't use as much meat as I used to, but I have to use 2, maybe 3 cups of that chicken because I don't want my sons or my husband saying, "Where's the meat?" Right? So you know what's best for your family. But I did want to show you today that yes, this recipe takes some time. There are several steps to it, a lot of things to cut up. And I used to not like to cut up onions and celery and carrots, and I would avoid recipes where you had to cut, 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 cut. But all those things that you cut are the nutrient dense plants that God made to nourish our body. So now I do not complain about cutting them up because I'm just overwhelmed that God loves us so much that He created all these plants to support and nourish our bodies and promote healing. So here's to healthy living and healthy recipes that are nutrient dense. I just want to say one thing about mushrooms, especially organic mushrooms. These foods are major immune modulators. They're also cancer fighters. And if you love mushrooms as I do, you're going to want to put them in everything you can, just for this reason. So here we go with all of the stockpile I have made. In here is the soup, okay, for us tonight. And then these are my 3 frozen 4-serving containers. And one of these will go to someone who's just come out of the hospital or is going through a tough time. I'll deliver it to their doorstep this afternoon. And then these are the smaller 2 storage containers, 2 servings each. And this is what I'm going to put in the refrigerator for my husband and I to eat off the next 2 nights. So here you have it, cook for an army and then freeze and store, but do it with nutrient-dense food. Until next time, here's to your good health with a healthy bowl of nourishing soup. And may God bless.